Financial year. I suppose the big question is, can this positive sentiment continue?
Technically, things are looking pretty good. If we have a look at the market today, up by 1.3%, and really we did see risk coming back into the market. The mid-cap stocks were up by 2.2%, and the small-cap stocks were up by 2.7%. So it was the smaller end of town doing well, but it was green across the board. In fact, only 16 out of the top 200 stocks managed a decline, about $5.3 billion being traded. Of course, technically, we've been watching for a break of that downward trend, and today we did see a convincing break. So if we go and have a look at the charts, this is a 52-week chart, you can see that today we broke that downward trend. We want to see that momentum continued in the next couple of days, but if we do see these levels staying this way, then we could see a 50% retracement back to about 4,714 points being the first target. So technically looking well in terms of the market. Green across the board, all sectors trading higher. The best performing sector today was the industrial sector. We saw stocks like Seven Media having a fantastic day, up by 5.8%. One stock not doing too well today, though, was News Corp. It announced a $585 million loss on the back of that sale of MySpace. So that stock down by 0.3%, but otherwise really gains across the board today.
And now for you from the year that's been.
Well, once again, we've seen the materials space, the big winners, so those resource companies doing well. Not surprising that we've seen another good year for copper prices, which were up by 44%. Tin prices were up by about 50%. Lead prices also up about the same, and zinc prices up by 30%. But the best performing stock in the ASX 200 this year is a stock called Bathurst Resources. It's up by a massive 585%. Now, this is a latecomer into the ASX 200 index. It was only included through the June rebalancing that we saw, and it is a producer of high quality thermal as well as coking coal, and it has a very niche market. In fact, it's got some specialized customers, so it seems to be doing quite well. So 585%. On the flip side, though, we saw information technology, the smallest sector on our market, the worst performing, with a loss of about 11.6%. Telecom also not doing too well, with a loss of about 7%. And remember, Telstra did hit an all-time low earlier on this year, but altogether it does look like a finish in the black for the Aussie share market, up by 7%.
Making a note, Julia Lee, some interesting moves amongst nickel producers, simply because one's misfortune, I suppose. Manara having some problems.
Well, nickel's been an underperformer in the whole scheme of things for the financial year. While we have seen metals like copper up by 44%, a lot of the base metals up by 50%, nickel prices only up by 18%. But if we have a look at the nickel market, Australia is responsible for producing around about 12% of output, and Manara itself is responsible for 2 to 3% of output. It does look like Manara's output has been compromised. It isn't trading, it isn't churning out nickel at full output at the moment because of a problem that it's had with one of its failure in its heat exchange at its Murrin project. And of course, that's been good news for some of the other nickel miners on the Australian market today. In fact, Mirabilla nickel up more than 7% on today's market. So altogether, not good news for Manara Resources, but great news for Mirabilla nickel. If we have a look at the outlook for nickel prices over the next couple of years, nickel prices are expected to underperform, and that's because of the large amount of projects coming online. So supply is expected to exceed demand in this case, and nickel, one of the underperformers when you compare it to some of the other commodities on the London Metals Exchange.